Hi guys, I'm going to walk you through the Typographic Portrait assignment. So I'll go ahead and take a look at the directions, which I have posted online. So you need a large digital photo file of yourself or someone that's meaningful to you in order to complete this assignment. Personally, I prefer that you do it of someone you actually know, but you can do it of someone famous as well. Okay, and it's telling you the kinds of images that work best. Make sure they have at least 1200 by 1500 pixels. If they're smaller, it's not a huge deal, but it will just help you because we're doing a print quality image with this. Okay, when we get to the instructions, I'm going to go ahead and just follow along with these, and you can follow along with the video. So I'm going to open up Photoshop over here, and I'll create a new file. That's 8 by 10, 300 dots per inch. I recommend that the direction you make this file, whether it's portrait or landscape, matches the image you choose to use. So you might want to find the image first. Okay, then we'll place the image and we'll rasterize it after we size it. So let me show you all of this. Okay, so we'll say File, New, down up here, or you'll see, I'll do the shortcut so we can all see it, Command N. And inches, I know that my image I'm going to use is a portrait format, so it's actually taller than it is wide. So I'm going to put my 8 and 10 like this. If you have a landscape format image, put your 10 in the width and your 8 in the height. And I'm going to work with RGB color, white in the background. 300 pixels per inch is print quality. Okay, I have Adobe Bridge open so it's easy to see the image I want, and I'm going to do one of my husband and I. And you can either just drag it in here like so, or as the directions say, you could also say File, Place, which is down here. Okay, I'm going to fill up this image area with this photo. So hold Shift, and I'm going to also hold Option. So Shift will size it proportionally, Option sizes it from the center out. Okay, and I can go ahead and scoot it down. If I want it to move straight down, I'm going to hold Shift. That'll help me. So we don't want any white space on the outside. It might crop a little bit, but that's okay. Let's go back to the directions. Okay, it says we need to rasterize the image. And then we're going to posterize it. Okay, so now we need to rasterize this image. You'll see that I dragged it in, and it's a smart object. It has this little icon there. So just say Layer, Rasterize, Smart Object. And you'll see that's now gone. Okay, now we can make changes to this layer that affect the pixels. Before I posterize this, I'm actually going to show you how to take out the background, because you don't want to use the background for the end result in this. So if you have a lot of background imagery, you'll want to take it out as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use my quick selection tool, and I'm just going to try to quickly select me and my husband. And make sure I kind of get every part of us. Oop, too much. Edit, undo. Okay, if you're grabbing too much image area, you can always take some of that out by clicking up here on Subtract from your selection. You can also toggle back and forth between these by simply holding Shift for plus, add to, Option for subtract from. And I can change my brush sizes by clicking my left and right brackets. So that's pretty close. I'll get it even closer by saying refine edge, smart radius. Just turn that up a little bit, see if it can figure out what's wrong with this picture. Looks pretty good, but I'm going to touch up the edges where I can see Photoshop just isn't quite getting this. There we go. So got that. Perhaps in the hair. It's pretty smart about this. Okay. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to just go ahead and say new layer for this. Okay, so this new layer doesn't have a background, and you'll see the visibility in my old layer is turned off. Okay, so with this one, now I'm going to go ahead and posterize, like the directions said. And I'll say image, adjustments, posterize. Now this will limit my picture into a limited color scheme. I think it says to go to 3 or 4 in there. So that means you have 3 or 4 colors making up your image. You just want to make sure you can see everything okay. I might even do 5. We'll go, maybe we'll try it with 4. Okay. Alright, so what we're going to be doing now is thinking of some words that have to do with the people or person in your image, okay? You want at least 5 words. So look at the directions here. Okay, so we posterized, choose 3 or 4, so minimal color variations. If I want to do it all in grayscale, I could also desaturate. Maybe I'll do that. Let's see. See how it looks. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to leave mine desaturated. You don't have to. Okay, so we'll go back. Let's see. I'm going to hide my photo layer by clicking on the eyeball on the left side of the layers palette next to the layer. And then using my text tool, I'm going to list several words that represent my subject. Now, I recommend doing each of those words in a font fitting for the word. I'll show you how to download fonts if you have to do that. Okay, so make sure the word is actually in a font that feels right for that word. Okay, and this says, you know, additional fonts can be downloaded and added from sites like defont.com, but download responsibly. So only download fonts that are free for personal use unless you are willing to pay for them. Okay, sometimes after you download them, you might have to exit Photoshop or at least exit the text tool. So let's see what fonts I have. Alright, this is interesting because I'm doing this on both my husband and I together as a couple. So, by the way, when you're doing your text, make sure you're using your default colors of black and white and type your text in black. What you're going to do later is turn your text into brushes, and if it's black, it'll be the densest it can be. You can always paint in a different color. So I took my visibility off, and I'm going to click and draw a text block. And here, maybe I will pick out a few fonts. I might change these, and then we'll make it a lot bigger, so it's a little easier to see. Okay. And I think I'm going to use a few different fonts for this word. So, something that's opposite that font would be kind of like handwritten and playful. Okay, well, I thought I had a scribble font that's not in here actually right now. So I'm going to show you, it's a good opportunity to show you how to download a font. So online, I'm going to go ahead and go to defont.com, although there's other sites that have free fonts you can use. And you can always look in these categories if you sort of know the kind of font you're looking for. I know that I want one that kind of looks like scribbles, so I might even do a search for scribbles. So there's handwritten might have it, but let me just try scribble. And there was one that I thought I had that I can't seem to find. So I'll see if I can find it in here. Ah, see, I thought it was this one, but it doesn't look right, the one I have. So this one says it's free for personal use, so I'm going to download it. Okay, and then you can open it, and this is in my downloads. Okay, and the TTF file is your actual font file. So just double click that. That will open it, say install font. Okay, so it says problems may have been found during validation. One minor problem, proceed with caution. So I'm just going to say install checked. Okay. Okay, so basically when you download a font, you might have to go out of your text tool and then go back into it. Sometimes you might even have to close out Photoshop and then open it up again to use it. So I'm just going to make every other letter in here this time to scribble font. And if it looks funny, I was trying to figure out why it didn't look right. It's because I have it on bold, so I had to take that off. Took me a little while to figure that out. It's usually something silly, making your image look a little weird. So I'm just going to kind of make these all the same. So my husband and I are wonderful partners, but we're very different. So I'm using the term opposites right here. Okay, cool. There's one word. I need 5 more. I'm going to pause this while I do my other 5 words, and then I'll come back and show you what to do next. Okay, so I've recorded my 5 words, and they're all in black, and they're using appropriate fonts for the words. So they say opposites, friends, artistic, soulmates, historic. And I'm going to make brushes out of these now. So looking back at our assignment, this is going to tell us how to create a brush. Now this says you have to rasterize your text. I've found that you actually don't have to do that. But what I want to do is use my rectangular marquee with the new selection option chosen, so that's up top in your tool presets, and click and drag one word at a time. Okay. After I click and drag the word, in Edit, I can define a brush preset and actually make a brush out of this. So then I'll label it accordingly. So I'm going to do this for each of these words. At the end, I'll do one overall marquee over all of them and define a pattern that I could use to paint. So we're actually going to be painting with words. Okay? Let's see. Here we go. So I'm going to get my marquee out. No feathering on, and it's a new selection. Click and drag across your first word. Say Edit, Define, Brush Preset, name it the same as your word. Okay. Click and drag around your second word. Same thing. So we're just going to do this for all of these words. Define a brush preset. Okay, and last, we can click and drag across all of them, and in the same spot, just say Edit, Define Pattern. Okay, and so I'll just say this is my text pattern. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say View Fit on Screen, or you'll see Command 0 is the shortcut, so I'll do that so all of you can see it. And I can deselect, which is select, deselect, or Command D. Okay, I can turn this off now, turn back on my posterized image. Now what we want to do is actually lock this image, because then we won't be painting on it. We want to create a new layer that will actually be our painting layer. Okay, let's look back at the directions. Okay, so now what we're going to do is use our magic wand, which allows us to select color range, and we're going to be choosing the different colors in our image, so one at a time, and basically using that selection on a new layer and painting in words of different values and colors to create an image made out of text. So with your magic wand selected, make sure on the top you have new selection chosen, tolerance at maybe 30 or below. You only want it grabbing one of your colors, and contiguous should be unchecked. Okay, so your posterized image layer is visible and active, and then make sure your text is invisible, which we already did. Okay, we already created a new layer that we're going to paint in. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start using this magic wand. So my magic wand is one of my smarter selection tools. So I've got new selection, tolerance is at 30, contiguous is off. So make sure your posterized image layer is active so it knows which one you're selecting from. Click in a color, so you'll see it selected all this color gray. Now part of how I'm going to make this image is by painting in different values. So even if you're using colors, even if you change the colors of what you see, make sure that the value you paint in is relatively the same as the values in the photo. So this is neither my lightest color nor my darkest. It should be a relatively light color. I'm just going to use the colors that are in the image, so I'm going to use my eyedropper tool. Click on that color, and now I can turn the visibility off, and I'll still keep the selection. So I'm using the selection from that image to constrain where I actually paint. Okay, so I made my painting layer active. I can now choose a brush, and you'll see at the bottom, if I did this right, I should have my different words that I just made. So for this, I'm going to just pick one of my words. I'll just start from the first one, and I'm painting in the color that my eyedropper chose. Okay, you can change the brush size quickly by using your brackets. And you want to be able to read some of the words, but you also sort of want to fill in this area mostly with this color. So I'm just clicking a lot. And I'm going to pause this while I work on this. Okay, so I think that I got all of this image, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect it so you can see what's there so far. I'll turn my photo back on, so since it's in the same color, when the photo's visibility is on, I'm not going to see it. Okay, make that active again and do the same thing with a different color. So use your magic wand, go to a different shade, okay, and make sure you actually change your color so that you start developing this same range of value that you see here. So this is darker than my original color. I'm using the same colors in the image, so I'm going to use the eyedropper, click on that color, so it changed my foreground color to dark. Turn the visibility off the photo again. Go to the painting with my new selection, and I'm going to choose a different word this time. And again, I'll start filling this area in. Hopefully some of my text will be readable, so I'm going to do it at different sizes. But again, I'm also trying to make the image visible and understandable when my photo layer is not visible. So this should be painting in a slightly darker gray than my last brush. So you should start seeing the image come out too. And I'll go ahead and pause this again. So here's my second layer. So I just deselected it, so you can start to sort of see this image coming to life. Again, make your photo image visible and active. Select another color. So maybe I will actually select the white in the image, and what I'm going to do is I'll paint it in white, but I guess before I do that I'm going to change my background color so that it's visible over the background. So let's make it like a light pink, and I'll just fill it in. There we go. Okay, so take that off. Let's reselect the white. Okay, and I will go to my painting layer, use my eyedropper, select that white. Same thing, use my brush, grab another word, and turn off the visibility of the photo so I can see what I'm doing. This is a real thin font, so this one might take a little bit of time. So I'll go ahead and pause this again while I'm working. Okay, so you can see that I've got this mostly the white kind of filled in. You might not be able to read the words very much. I might go back with an actual eraser later and erase a few words out. So I'll show you that if I decide to do it. So I could erase out one word sort of in a real thick area so you can see it, and I could even turn my opacity down when I do that. But you can still use the same brushes in your eraser tool. I also noticed that I had a little bit of a selection here that isn't really in the picture, so that must have been when I was selecting and thinking I was getting rid of the area between our heads. So that one I'm actually going to use a regular eraser brush for. And just going to very carefully sort of erase out. Okay, so there's what we have so far. Okay, again, turn the image back on. Okay, so I got this light gray, got the white, we got this darker gray, so I definitely need some of these blacks. Same thing. So I made this active and visible, selected my black, eyedropper, get the color I want, or just change it by hand. Make sure, though, if you're doing your darkest color, make sure you're painting in a dark color as well. Okay, so I've got another one of my words, and I'm on my painting layer, and I'm going to go ahead and use that to paint this in. Now you could at any time also choose to use your pattern, which will fill in a greater area with all the words at once. To do that, you would simply go to your pattern stamp brush and choose the pattern from the bottom there. I'm just going to keep with my brushes I'm working with. but no, that's an option for you too. And let me pause this. Okay, here is most of my black layer. So again, I can go back to make this more readable if I want to a little later. So I'm just trying to make the image sort of visible. And here I'll deselect. Okay, here's the image. Let's see what so it's sort of kind of coming together. Looks like I need to fill in a lot of my gray area still. Make this a little more visible. So this is the point where I think I've selected all my colors individually, but I need to see if I need to work back into any of them. So this is kind of working, but I'm kind of still see-through in my grays. Some of the darker grays in here are not showing up. And a few of the little details in the nose. Oops. And maybe I want to, maybe fill in that light gray a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is reselect it. And on my painting layer, I'll go back and work on that again. So make sure I select the color, turn the visibility off, and that one, let's see which word I used. That was my first one. That's the one I used opposites on. Oops. It looks darker than it should be. Let me make sure I got the right color. Okay. Painting layer. Go brush. Okay. So I'm just going to fill this in a little more. So I'm just going to use kind of big letters. And this area, where there's these wide open areas, if I end up filling it in so much that you can't read anything, that's okay. What I'm going to do is go back in a second with an eraser. So I'm going to use my eraser, find that same opposites brush, and just turn the opacity down a bit. And I'm going to go somewhere in this kind of big open area, make the word big enough to be read. And I can kind of erase out too, so you can sort of read it. So that's kind of a little trick you can do so people can still read it. Okay, let's take a look at this thing. Okay, so I'm going to keep refining this, and then I'll show you my end product. Okay, so I think that this is pretty good for my final image. So before I save it, I want to make sure this image layer is off. I'm thinking that, I also didn't use one of my brushes yet, and I might want to add a little texture to the background. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this layer back on in terms of visibility. I'm going to again use my magic wand layer, but select the transparent area outside of the image, and I might have to add back in some of this selection, so I'll just add to it using another selection tool. Okay, so I have the background outside of us selected, and what I'm going to do is go to my painting layer and perhaps choose a color similar to the background color. So let's use our eyedropper. I'm going to make it maybe darker, so I'm just going to hold shift and bring it down. Okay, I'll pick my last brush, Historic, and I might even do a little bit of all of them in this layer. Okay, go ahead, go to the painting layer, and I'm going to paint these so it'll just be in the background. And I might make some larger. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of all my different brushes, I think, so that it adds this nice texture to the background, sets apart my image. From my actual foreground. Kind of shows the nice textures of these fonts. And it lets you know what words I used too, if you couldn't read them before. Maybe that's cheating, but I'm okay with it. Might start running these over each other a little bit. Maybe not. We'll see. Let's see. Friends. So I'll pause this and you can see what it looks like when I'm done. So here is my final result. So when I go to save this, I want to make sure this is off. This looks cool, it does, but it's not my typographic portrait, right? So I'm going to leave it off for saving this. Let's look back at our directions. Okay. So we repeated all this for these contrasting colors, and we double checked it to make sure we can see our image and our text. So once we're done, right, we want to save our image both as a Photoshop document. Make sure when I save it, I title it accordingly. Last name, first initial, type portrait, PSD. And then I'll be able to upload it, right? So you saved it on Lalima. I'm going to just save it on my computer. And then you're going to also save a version that's a JPEG, quality 10. So we'll say File, Save As. This is when we title it. So last name, first initial, type, portrait. Tell it where you want it. I'm putting it on the desktop for now. I'll move it in a minute. Okay, then save a flat version. File, Save As. Just change that format to JPEG. Same spot. And say quality 10. So there you have it. Good luck.